Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Shot 3 from the Tee podcast. This one is for the Honda Classic and the start of the Florida Swing. I'm your host for the Osmo Golf podcast series, a two-part golf podcast series, one on Monday and one on Tuesday, both in the mornings. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you can catch them on Sunday nights and Monday nights, but they normally come out pretty late. This one, the Shot 3 from the Tee podcast, is where I go over right at the beginning, go over the prices that I guessed from the previous night. Then I go right into the field. I look at the sponsors' exemptions. I look at some other weird things that people are playing under, like lifetime memberships or major medicals. Then I go into the Monday qualifiers, any field changes. And then I go over my top opening odds and salary discussion, where I give you three of my top looks at the board early here in this week. And then I go into stats with Matt at Matt Jones TFR on Twitter. He joins me. He does his stuff over at RotoViz. And we've got some pretty good content tonight. So looking forward to that. So again, I want to thank, as I do on these most recent podcasts, I want to thank SuperDraft for sponsoring it. SuperDraft, the new and improved and future of daily fantasy, is here. Using the SuperDraft's unique and own game, the multiplier, where there are no salary restrictions. You can use anybody you want using their specific and unique multiplier system, where they're going to list out everybody specifically for golf here in the field, and each of those players is going to have a different multiplier effect, so some tons of good strategy going on there. They also have a contest for NFL when it runs, NBA right now, running some pretty good contests there. I saw some five-figure first place last week. Of course, NHL and MLB coming up. So check out superdraft.io. Use promo code OSMO to get some free money over there as well on your first deposit. So thanks to SuperDraft. All right, let's move right into the prices here from last night. I had Brooks Koepka at the top of the board. I had Ricky Fowler next. I had Tommy Fleetwood third. So I got all three of those right, except for I didn't get their position right at all. Tommy Fleetwood comes in at number 1, 11.6. Brooks Koepka at 11.2 and Ricky Fowler at 10.8. Then I got the next two guys pretty much wrong. First of all, they're only going with 4 golfers above 10K this week, not giving any respect at all to Justin Rose for whatever the reason may be. Who knows what it is. He's at 9.9K, and they throw Victor Hovland down at 9.5, so maybe I was a little egregious there. But Gary Woodland was the other guy I thought they might throw up there, and they did at 10.3. So not a very good. I'm going to give myself, oh boy, geez, I would say, well, I don't know. The fact that they threw Rose at 9.9, I feel like maybe I should get credit for it. No, probably not. Let's go with a C- to a D almost, maybe close to failing. Maybe one of those like, hey, teacher, you got any extra credit type of things where I need to get my grade above passing? Yeah, I might be going for one of those this week. So let's see if I can make up for that and talk about some of the sponsors' exemptions. This week, there's a few of them on the board. Tom Lewis, who he gets into the Corn Ferry Tour Finals exemptions, where they're allowed to basically get any that they want to. I should say any. They're unlimited, but they still got to get them. They still got to be offered them. So Lewis, who missed the cut, I believe, out of Puerto Rico last week, as well as Alex Noren, is here trying to avenge that miscut. Stuart Sink, Harris English, also, again, Ryo Ishikawa gets another one. He had a dreadful week down in Mexico. Eric Van Rooyen, however, did not, and he is here this week. He needs very, very little to get on the PGA Tour after that third place finish at the WGC Mexico, already guaranteeing himself a couple of more WGC starts plus the majors. You can expect to see EVR either play more here this year if he has a good start this week or the next couple of weeks, or certainly next year, because he will have the ability through the special temporary membership to become a member next year, very similar to like Morikawa, Redmond, the alike. So, interesting story developing there. Kurt Kitayama will need a couple of good starts to accomplish that feat that EVR is going for. He is here this week as well. Lee Westwood has had a resurgent year. He is here to play this week. And Doug Gim, coming off of a good start. Well, I shouldn't say good start. Made the cut. His first one in a little while at Puerto Rico. He is here. Earns a sponsor exemption this week as well. Okay, two players playing on a lifetime membership one, which I don't see very often. There aren't many guys. Vijay Singh and Davis Love III are the two guys playing here this week. Davis Love III, not so much, but Vijay Singh, man, he has a top 10 here and a couple of times in his last few starts here at PGA Nationals, so don't count out Vijay Singh, not quite yet at least. I'll go on to the Monday qualifiers. These are some fun ones this week. If I mess up the third guy's name, I apologize. First one, Hayden Buckley. He came in first, sixth on the Mackenzie Tour last year, just missing the promotion. But when I go into his profile, it says he was fifth, which actually would give him the promotion. I'm not really sure. Here's what I do know. He came in 83rd in the qualifying school for the Korn Ferry Tour, so it only gave him conditional status there. But for all intents and purposes, Hayden Buckley had a really good year on the Mackenzie Tour. He's 23 from Missouri. He went to Missouri from Mississippi. So Hayden Buckley certainly is going to have the biggest 4 days of his professional career coming up. Andrew McCain, he was actually way down the order of merit this past year. Not really showing up, I don't even think, in the top 50. So he still played in the Korn Ferry Tour status and did nothing there as well. So Andrew McCain, 25-year-old from Maryland. Not too much to be excited about, but hey, you never know what will happen, especially in the Honda Classic. So last one is, this was the one I'm going to mess up probably. Oh, no, I'm sorry, second to last one. The last one is Arjan Atwal. We've seen a couple of times. This guy's just a journeyman. Glad he got here, to be honest with you. It's just good to see him in the fields. Means that he either Monday qualified or the field is really deep. So two good stories to play. The last one is Daniel Widerich. At Korn Ferry Tour qualifying school, he ranked 166th. No, I'm sorry. Let's take that back. He was ranked 166th in the world as an amateur. He came in 96th at 96th at Korn Ferry Tour qualifying school, so he's guaranteed maybe a couple of starts. He did, however, come in second at the Western Amateur to end his schooling there. So he's just turned pro at the end of the school season last season, so not too much for Daniel to go off of, but again, you never know what'll happen. All right, let's head into the field changes before we go into our stats with Matt. So field changes. First, it was Chris Baker, Michael Gillick, and Brandon Hagee out, with Russ Roach, Josh Teeter, and Vincent Whaley getting in via top 10s at the Puerto Rico Open last week. But then Hagee got in for J.J. Spawn dropping out. Michael Gillick got in for Charles Howell getting out. And we're still waiting on Chris Baker. It looks like Chris Baker is still on the outside looking in. He goes up to the first alternate. Okay, now we'll move on to our opening odds and salary discussion. We get through three different ones. I don't think I've brought these guys up all year, so it'll be fun to chat about them for a minute or two. And it's Tommy Fleetwood starting us off at 12-1. So I bring him up because I don't know if we've ever seen him as the betting favorite on the PGA Tour or for a PGA Tour tournament. So kudos to Tommy Fleetwood for that, coming in at 12-1. Still not bad. I mean, 12-1, one would think, he hasn't won a PGA Tour event, so it would be a silly bet, but here he is, came in fourth here the first time he played. So Tommy Fleetwood maybe setting up. I did say he was going to win once in the next 4 weeks, so let's see if he doesn't let me down, Tommy Fleetwood. Next one, Siwoo Kim, 200-1. I know he has been playing terrible this year, but we saw a little bit of form last week. We know he can play well in Florida. He just won at the Players' Championship. Not just won, shouldn't say that. He won at the Players' Championship a few years ago. So 200-1 in this field on greens that we know he's going to be a better putter at. We certainly want to try and take advantage. So 200-1, Siwoo Kim. And then the last one, Robbie Shelton, 300-1. So here's a guy that played really good over the fall circuit, and now he's down there at the bottom of the barrel. He finally made the cut again last week at the Puerto Rico Open. So, like Robbie Shelton, maybe for a little bit of a bounce-back week. All right, so that'll do it for the first segment here of the Shot 3 from the Tee podcast. As always, I want to thank SuperDraft and thank all of you for joining and listening. Of course, if you want to hear more, if you like some of the content, You want to hear more of it, more like it, let me know. If you hate some of it, if some of it is just too boring for you, please let me know as well. Of course, we're on both iTunes and SoundCloud now and a bunch of other places. So, of course, plenty of ways to let me know how you feel about the content. So, again, thanks for listening. We'll be coming back with Matt Jones on the other side of this little short break. So, thanks again for joining, everybody, and we will see you next week for the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Cheers, everyone. All right, welcome back to the second segment here of the Shot 3 from the Tee podcast, part of the Awesome Golf podcast series sponsored by SuperDraft. I am joined by Matt Jones at Matt Jones TFR for our Stats with Matt segment. Matt's been traveling a little bit and moving places, so I finally was able to rope him back in and get him to talk about the Florida swing, which I'm going to throw a whole bunch of nonsense at him, of course, but there is some good in the nonsense, right, Matt?
Oh, for sure, yeah. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited that there's a cut this week, so we're back to the good tournaments, not this WGC nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with the WGC, granted, I enjoyed the competition. It was fun. You know, Patrick Reed, it is what it is. But I saw when Bryson was winning on 16, I was winning money for the week. Patrick Reed wins, and I was losing money for the week. That happens a decent amount, but I don't think it happens nearly as much as it does in WGCs. So it certainly ups the tilt. There's no doubt about that. But don't have to worry about that. The only tilt we have to worry about is if you sleep through a lock, as we're going 6:45 in the morning, I think, somewhere around there. All right, so let's dive in. We've seen, especially with this tournament, bogey avoidance get thrown around a lot. So I think we should start off our talks there, and then we'll go into the approach proximity and the expected birdie. But let's start off with bogey avoidance. You put out a poll earlier in the day on Twitter, and why don't you just ask the question here, and then you and I can chat about it.
Yeah, so it because you said this, and I know I saw it floating around a little bit, I just put it out there. If people think that bogey avoidance is more of like a long-term skill, that's just something that it's like a talent that you have or you don't, or if it's more like, you know, closely tied to a short-term like form kind of skill.
Yep, and I voted. For me, I tend to lean short-term, and though I threw a caveat to Matt, and I want to get his opinion on this. My caveat was the best players are always going to be the best at most everything. You know? So when we look at bogey avoidance for the rank of the tour last year, Rory McIlroy was number one. I mean, that's really no surprise to anybody. You know, you look at the top five. Webb Simpson, yeah, he had an amazing year. Patrick Cantlay, yeah, makes total sense. Charles Howell, maybe okay, the first one that we can, you know, have a discussion about it. Did he just have a great year last year? Or is Charles Howell, does he just not make that many bogeys? And Tommy Fleetwood is the fifth one of the top five. So what's your thought on both of kind of my points there?
Yeah, I mean, Fleetwood being good at this is kind of a monkey wrench in some people's arguments, I feel like, because I mean, if you've rostered Tommy Fleetwood, like I'm sure a lot of people have that are listening to this, you know that there are those days where just nothing goes right. But for me personally, just as far as the poll goes, it's 70-30 in favor of long-term skill.
Wow.
Which I thought was interesting. I thought it would be a little bit closer than that. For me, I really do think that if you take out like the tails, you know, you take out the guys who are in the top 15 in the world, they're obviously going to be good at this. You take out, you know, the bottom third of the field and kind of look at that middle chunk. I think that it's much more form dependent. You know, not on aggregate or whatever. It's like one of those things where I think you really need to take the best and the worst kind of out of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, just going down, you know, maybe to the top 10, we get guys like Lucas Glover, who had the best year of his career, or the best year in a long time. Maybe not his career, but the best year in a long time. Vaughn Taylor, same thing. You know, these guys were ranked in the top 10, and they had great years. So, again, indicative of likely, in my opinion, short-term form there. Okay, so why do you think that it comes up a lot at this tournament just because we're almost guaranteed to have a single-digit, winner. Single-digit under par. Sorry, I didn't finish the thought. Single-digit under par winner.
Yeah, no, I think that definitely has a lot to do with it. I personally am a little bit agnostic as far as bogey avoidance goes, like most weeks, because I am of the mindset like that's like a duh kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like it sounds silly to say like, oh, I really want to roster guys this week that avoid bogeys. Like, yeah.
I'd like to do that every week.
Right. Right. Like regardless, of course.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's just something to be said for it here. Like you're gonna rely a little bit more on your short game to get up and down and get pars, which just automatically lends itself to bogey avoidance. And that there's a much higher premium on birdies, just because there are so many fewer opportunities than one of these courses where 18 under is going to win.
Yeah, so typically when we see a single digits under par, we see driving accuracy matter so much, right? Because it's normally the rough that makes the difference and makes these scores so low, or so high, I should say. But that's actually not the case. Keith Mitchell hit 55% of his fairways last year. The winner before that, Justin Thomas, hit 51% of his fairways. So what do you think it is? I mean, it's a par 70, so obviously that matters a tremendous amount. I mean, probably a shot and a half a round, which is 4 shots, which bring the winner to mid-teens. Beyond that, do you think there's anything else? Do you think that the course just really doesn't allow for many wedge shots? That's kind of what it seems like to me.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more strategic golf going on. I think that it leads to guys playing a little bit safer than one of these tracks that that they have like airplane runways to land their drives on.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So that brings me into my next point. I mentioned that just not too many wedge chances. Under 125 was basically the least on a per average basis. So really going to be a lot of those 8 to 5 irons this week. A lot of the 150 to 225 approaches coming in. So you can break it down into any 25 yards you'd like to. Got any expected birdies, guys, popping out in those categories?
Yeah, Joaquin Niemann is a guy who I just continue to hammer every week. He's top like 12 in both 150 to 175 and 175 to 200. The way that I'm looking at it, and he has some of the better both bogey avoidance and birdie or better numbers in those ranges. So he's a guy that I'm definitely interested in. I think he's a little underpriced too, 8,700. I think he could have been maybe a little bit more, and he's still kind of looking for that, that breakthrough in one of these fields.
Yeah, better field, exactly right.
But yeah, I mean, outside of that, like Russell Henley is another guy who popped a little bit in this. He's top 5 in both of these distances that I just mentioned. So he's another guy who, again, as far as fit goes, I think that he could make a little bit of sense. He obviously, what did he miss? Like 5 cuts in a row before the Genesis. So not coming in with a really great track record, but
yeah, and a lot of that, as a lot of people know, of course, it was due to his putting. But there does go to say something that, he found his putting stroke a little bit at the Genesis and now comes to a course where, he's had okay success on, and it looks like statistically he should match up. So he's actually one of the guys, I think one of the only guys that have made 6 out of 7 cuts here in the last 7 years. So
wow.
There's a little bit something to that. This tournament, as you well know, is crazy. Okay, so good. Russell Henley, Joaquin Niemann. I like those two. I'll throw at you Corey Connors, but honest to goodness, Corey Connors is going to be in like the top 10 in all of the approach yardages, but he's real bad with his putter still. So take that with a grain of salt. Jason Kokrak had a phenomenal year last year, so last year numbers, he's going to show up a lot as well. Thought one guy, though, that's had a good year this year, who maybe has tailed off a little bit recently, is Tom Hoagie. He showed up for me a little bit, a combined 13th ranking, so it gives him 4th in the field the way I'm looking at it. Any thoughts? I know you're a Hoagie guy, so it was just interesting when I saw him show up again.
Yeah, for sure. I think that what was it at Pebble? He kind of took a little bit of a step back with his around the green game, but for the most part, he showed up quite a few times in January. So I like that. The fit is obviously there. Like, you're never going to want to really put a ton of investment into Hoagie on like a Bombers track. So these would be the places that you want to take advantage of a $6,900 Tom Hoagie.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, these don't always they don't always match up. Like last year, Keith Mitchell, he was 86th and 167th in approach proximity from these two distances, and ended up winning the tournament. But if you go look at the stats from that week, he was very, very good off the tee in terms of strokes gained, but also really good on the approaches. So it just takes the player to get hot. Plus, he's also a lot better on Bermuda greens than he is POA. He is so bad at POA. He's one of the guys that I think it actually matters. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, he's like maybe one of, I don't know, 8 guys that I ever even like think about putting splits with.
Right, exactly. There aren't many of them, and if people are interested in hearing them, maybe we'll go over them next week. We'll go over our list. We'll give our top 3 of each split list, since we are coming into the 4-week stretch of all Bermuda. So.
Yep.
All right, I think any other names for me, I'll just throw out a top name, played well last week. Griot also popped in this category. Again, he's a guy that's really good on his approaches, so very similar to Connors. Going to show up here. That doesn't mean he's a good play because he's a terrible putter. In terms of studs in the field, though, Justin Rose, really not in great form, but should play to his strengths here. What do you think? Where do you stand with Justin Rose?
I mean, we did the hot take, right? And he's out of the top 10 right now. So,
I was hoping you were going to give yourself a little bit more credit for that. I led you into that pretty well. But no, if you guys remember our hot take podcast at the beginning of the year, Matt said that Justin Rose would fall out of the top 10 at some point, and we're not even.
I didn't think it would happen before March.
Yeah, checking the watch, man, and we're not even 3 months into the season here, and you've already nailed that hot take. I'm gonna have some ground really to catch up on that one, because that's a great one. However, this week, do you think he gets back in with a good finish here, or do you think the regression continues?
I mean, I don't. Like I said, I'm obviously kind of low on him in general right now. I don't really think that he did anything to make me feel like he put it together. What was it? The Genesis, he made the cut and was like outside the top 50, lost strokes pretty much everywhere. So I'm not really, I mean, obviously that's a different type of track, and maybe he could snap something together, but I'm not going to be heavily exposed to him this week. That's for sure.
Yeah. And it's not like the price has really come down all that much. It's still 9,900 in this type of field. So, it's not like we're getting a bargain. It's not like he's 7,800 at the Masters and I'm pounding the table saying, no, we
Right.
got to play a 7,800 Justin Rose at the Masters. Just like I would if Matt Kuchar was 7,800 at the Masters. I probably would say, if you don't have them in your cash lineup, I'm not sure that I'm doing this right. In any case, all right, that's some good stuff. Any other guys you want to bring up, or do you think you've given a good number at least to give some people some ideas?
Yeah, no, I think those are the big ones. I definitely agree with your Connors mention before too. Do yourself a favor and figure out a way to block his shot tracker. Just don't follow the round. Just check it and see if he made any putts or not.
All right, we'll end it on this great notion of course history. I will ask you if Wyndham Clark, top 10 here last year, in some good form,
oh man,
tries to debunk that theory again and ends up with a top 10 again here this year.
I mean, if you wanna go after some Wyndham Clark, it's Matt 13 Jones on DraftKings. You can send me some head-to-heads.
There you go. It's Wyndham Clark, 7,600 this week too. So it's not like I told you. DraftKings loves the course history angle. It's unbelievable. Tommy Fleetwood, fourth here a couple of years ago. He's the top prize player in the field. Anyways, if you like some course history chat, Matt and I have some good ones on Twitter. Join us next time you see us chatting about it. It's all in good fun, and we enjoy it. So, Matt, thanks for coming on and chatting with me tonight.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Yeah, and we'll see you next week for the Arnold Palmer, I believe it is. Yes?
Yep.
Yeah, going up to Bay Hill, Orlando. So, all right, Matt. Thanks a lot. Matt Jones, TFR on Twitter. Find his stuff at RotoViz as well. Thanks for joining.
Thanks.